Hello and welcome to a VO's Journey podcast. My name is Anthony Pica, and this show is all about helping the new and upcoming voiceover artists grow their business and sidestep all of the crazy things that I seem to keep stepping on. Welcome to the podcast. It is episode number 168, and so it seems like I keep apologizing every time, but it has been I have gone the longest in a while for not doing a podcast. I think the last one went live on June 17th, so it's the 29th. I should be ashamed, and I am. So we're going to talk about the rightly so something called the compound effect. And I really, really believe in this idea, if you will, and I want to share it with you and how I think it could really help your voiceover business and how I use it in my voiceover business. And it's something that, even when I started, I started applying this, even though at the time I really wasn't aware of it. But anyways, let's go ahead and talk about it. Let's do it. This is VO's Journey. With your host, the incomparable Anthony Pica. All right, so let's talk about the compound effect. So real quick, though, before we dive into this, I want to talk to you a little bit about how things are going on my end and with my business and everything. So things are going well. Business continues to grow. I think Fiverr is always continues to be a bright spot, and I'm very pleased and happy with Fiverr. We have an amazing group in the VO's Journey Fiverr Elite group. I think we have over 70 members right now, and I am so blessed to be working with so many amazing voice talent from all over the country and some around the world. So that is amazing. We're doing a lot of studying and analyzing how to get more business and get ranked better, and it's going very well. It's so wonderful to see so many people in the top, the top place where on the front page of Fiverr and so many categories. It's wonderful, and I know that helps all of us. So that's a blessing, and I think that it has been also wonderful having a business during this time that's so uncertain at home. So, that's a plus. I will say that it is something that I'm noticing and diving into what we're talking about today is, there's a lot of people who might not be as fortunate as I am right now, especially if people just starting their voiceover business, just kicking it off, or trying to pivot, make more, figure out a way to break barriers. Maybe you've been making a certain amount of money for a period of time and you can't figure out why, you can't make more, or it's going down, And I think that the one of the key components to this is what I like to call the compound effect. Now, let me explain this to you. I think I've spoke about it briefly a long time ago, but the compound effect is the idea of, doing something once, then doing it again, then doing it again, and 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 you keep doing it over and over and over and over again. And it compounds to create something massive. Now, you probably have already heard of this, just like compound interest, right? We've heard of compound interest. And if you don't know what that is, basically it's where the idea comes from investing, okay? And you invest money, and basically you earn interest every month, maybe on some invested money, and you reinvest that. You reinvest the interest, and what happens over time is that interest compounds, right? So all the interest that you invest, it compounds on top of each other, and that compounds on top of each other, and basically it ends up earning you all sorts of money because you reinvested the earnings. You kept compounding it one on top of the other. It's like you kept building more and more and more. And every time you got something, you just reinvested it. You kept building it to the point where there was so much there, right, that what you were receiving in return is so massive because of the sheer amount that you have invested. And I really believe that we need to look at our businesses in the same way. And this can be applied to all aspects of our business. So let's first dive into marketing, okay? Because I think it's safe to say that most of us are really, are really like into, hey, I think I got my sound taken care of. I think I got things taken care of, but I just need more business. I need more work. So let's dive into this, and let's first start with social media, okay? It's one of those things that social media is the marketing apparatus of our age, right? I mean, sure, there's commercials on TV and the radio, and those exist, absolutely. But for us, that's not really applicable. That's not where we market ourselves, right? We market ourselves by connecting, building relationships with other people, other businesses. So to do that, though, we have to be noticed. We have to be trusted. We have to be recognized. And in order to do that, there has got to be consistency. There's got to be some sort of compound effect. So, for example, if you take McDonald's, I don't know if you've ever done this, but McDonald's runs a campaign and you'll be driving somewhere, and I swear within the span of an hour, if you're, driving some long distance, and I would even say less than that. I'd say even a span of 20, 30 minutes, you might hear like 20 McDonald's commercials. Like it's insane when they push the envelope, right? Like it's wild to me. But the reason why they do that is because one compounds on the other, meaning that, you hear it once, you dismiss it. You hear it again, you dismiss it. You hear it again, you dismiss it. Hear it again, you dismiss it. You hear it again. You might recognize it. You hear it again. You recognize it. You hear it again. You dismiss it. You hear it again. All of a sudden you might, you're thinking about it. Hear it again. Oh, McDonald's. You pass a McDonald's. Oh, thinking about it. You hear it again and again and again. Sooner or later, you start to, you do start to get hungry. You start to think about McDonald's. Because it's a compound effect. It just compounds one on the other. It builds on itself. Now, I'm not talking about annoying people, okay? But I'm talking about building one on top of the other. Being consistent. So for social media and your marketing, the key is for you to consistently put out work or put out samples like we've talked about, put out messages like we talked about, put out things that are going to draw attention to you, your brand, your business, and you need to do it over and over. You've got to be consistent. You've got to let the time, all right, compound. You've got to let that compound interest work in your favor. Okay? Because one after another. And what happens is that you eventually have such a wide, massive reach that people find you, people search for you, people recognize you, or this is what we hope for. People need something and they remember you, right? That's the idea here. That's the idea of compounding our marketing, okay? Now, let's take a platform, for example, all right? Now, you know that I'm not a big advocate for voices.com or Voice123. It's not something that I particularly spend lots of time on, but I am fully aware of how important compounding is. So, for me, right, I like to put samples after samples after samples on these platforms. Do I have memberships for them? Absolutely. But I'm an odd member because I don't audition. I use them to put samples on in the hopes that people will find me. Now, this is of course counterintuitive to necessarily how the platform works in general. However, even Voice123, they've recognized, and Voices.com is clearly recognizing that people are not getting, it's impossible to service everyone by just auditioning. You can't have people making money by just auditioning when you have so many people going through that, right? I mean, that's really the issue. So, they are recognizing the importance of offering a book now, or, you listen to something and buy. They're also recognizing that people no longer there are a lot of people, new businesses, new parts of our industry, right? There's new markets because we're so open to the world that they don't want to talk to somebody. They don't want to audition 100 to 500 people. They don't want to deal with all that. They want to go find what they like by listening to samples, and then they want to book the person. They want to write down type out real quickly the directions and then get their voiceover. They don't want to deal with all of the hassle. They've got enough stuff to deal with. And, we live in a faster paced society than ever. So everything that you do should be with that in mind. At least for me, that's what I think is in my mind. So I use voices.com, Voice123 as a platform to put my samples out there. So the more I put out there, the more it compounds. Like if I've got samples over here and I've got samples over here and I've got samples over there and I've got samples down there and I've got samples up there and back there, you're going to have such a massive reach that people are going to find you. And I can give you case in point with this. I have started to get work, and I've talked about this a little bit too, through my website, which, as we know, that's like the golden goose, right? That's like the golden goose. That's the golden goose egg. We all would just love to get business through our website without having to work for it, if you will, right? So what is happening to me is people are finding me on these platforms and then searching for me and finding my website and buying through my website. Now, you could say maybe it's because I charge less on my website, and maybe so, but I could tell you this. Here's the deal. If they didn't find me and they didn't search for me, they couldn't find all these places that I didn't keep coming up, I didn't have a website that they could buy from, I wouldn't get the business. Do you understand? I think many of us labor under this idea that people aren't seeing us, people aren't, interested in working with us. I think that's folly. I think the reality is that we are not enough places. We are not compounding enough in order to capture people when they are actually ready to buy. Think of it this way. When you go and buy something, right, you might look for it for a couple of days or a couple of weeks. Some people, depending on how big it is, might be months, right? But you don't necessarily buy something right when, the need pops up. You do research, you look around, you might take a couple of days. And then if you're a business, you might have to go through some different channels. You might have to talk about it. You might have to have a meeting with other people and decide. So you can't think in terms of, right now, right? That's why I love this idea of compounding over time and continuing to build more and more little soldiers, if you will, like I say, out there fighting for you and getting you business. Because the more soldiers you have, right, the bigger your army is, the more ability you are to get work. But I think what I see happening is I see a lot of people who get really frustrated when they are trying something and for a short period of time, it just doesn't seem to work out, or they're not getting the return that they hoped, or worse, they compare themselves to other people. And I think that is extremely dangerous. Okay. Now, I don't want to make you think that it's not important to pay attention to what's happening to, with others and trends. I think that's extremely important. But I know for me, something that I always did, and I'm so, thankful that it happened this way, is that I really had a desire to do things my way. And what I mean by that is the reason why I wanted to do them my way is because I wanted to do certain things for me. I didn't want to do certain things, for money, even though I wanted to make money. We all want to make money, but I wanted to do things beyond money. Like when I first started, I mean, my dream was to be an audiobook narrator. It was to be a character actor, right? It was to do video games and stuff. Like I just wanted to do it. At the time, and this is straight, me, I'm straight honest with you. I honestly never thought in my wildest dreams I would be here. And I think people who say that to you, maybe 1% out of 9, out of 100, maybe 1 out of 100 actually, makes a plan from the very beginning that is going to be exactly what it is, right? It changes. You know what I mean? And my plan, literally when I started, was to be an audiobook narrator and to make some residual income every month. Even when I first started, I never assumed I would go full time, but it became a dream. It became a passion that built up inside of me, right? As time went on. But one of the greatest things I did was I did not stop. I compounded one after the other. I continued to put out audiobooks. I continued to do auditions. Here's another thing about auditioning for audiobooks. All right. You got to keep auditioning. You got to keep auditioning and keep auditioning and keep auditioning. Now, the same argument could be said, well, Anthony, that might be because as I'm talking to you out loud about this, I think to myself, well, that's kind of hypocritical when you say you don't like to audition on Voices or Voices 123. And I'm going to tell you that is a little hypocritical. Yes, it is. I think you're right. But for me, what I've noticed is that I, again, have made decisions based on my own experiences. And that's what I want you to do. Make them on your own experiences. So for me, what I mean by this is that I auditioned and auditioned and auditioned on voices.com. I auditioned on Voice 123 and I auditioned and I auditioned. And maybe if I got a job here or there, that's true. I have gotten work here or there from those platforms, but I'll be square with you. The amount of time that I auditioned to the amount of work I got was not worth it from me. And here's the rub. You could say, well, Anthony, maybe you sucked. Maybe I did. I am not going to deny that I possibly sucked, and that's why I didn't get work. But here's the thing. What if I did suck? So what? Right? I mean, the reality is that if that platform is not working for me, it is folly for me. All right. Now here's the thing. If I have other places that are working, it's folly for me to not try to figure out a new way of looking at solving the problem, which is getting more work. Right. And I think that is that's the challenge. And that's again where this compound effect comes in. You continue forward, even though something's not working out. You make changes depending on your results, but you don't stop. And by the way, I don't control voices.com, clearly, neither do you, right? I don't control Voice 123, I don't control Fiverr. All I can control is the things that I put out. That's why I love samples so much, because I control them. I don't control when someone sends me an audition. I don't control that, but I can control how many samples I put out. I can control that compounding over time to where it becomes so massive that somebody is going to see it. Somebody has seen it. Somebody is aware of me, and they're going to become more aware of me the more I put out and the more I put out and the more I put out. You have to be relentless in your drive, right? Relentless. You have to keep going no matter what. Now, you might dive in the deep end and say, you know what? I want to make voices.com work for me. I like how that goes, and I want to just audition every day. That's great. That's great. But let me tell you, then what you need to do is you need to audition more than anyone. You need to audition and audition and audition until you can't audition anymore, and then audition more. You need to be everywhere on that platform. You need to have more samples than everybody. You need to have more auditions than everybody. You need to be putting your voices.com profile everywhere. You need to be sending emails with voices.com in it. You need to leave no stone unturned. You need to implement the idea of the compound effect, because the more you put out things, the more it compounds to the point where it will become so massive that the world, the universe, has no choice but to recognize you and to give you what you want. I mean, hell, that's what all this is about, is getting what we want. In this case, we want more business. Okay? So I hope that this helps you in your mindset of what the compound effect is, how I've used it. I mean, I've used it over and over again. I continue to use it with this podcast. I use it with samples. I use it with videos. I use it with all sorts of things so that sooner or later, people are going to see me, people are going to hear me, people are going to find me. Okay, because there's so much out there, becomes so big because one compounds on the other that there will be a point where people cannot ignore me. And that should be what you search for too. That should be what you are doing. And by the way, this is all morphed into this. This is not when I started my podcast a couple of years ago, that's not what it was about. It wasn't about me saying what I just said to you as people not being able to ignore me. All right. I mean, it was about me just documenting my journey in hopes that I could help some people, along the way that were going through the same thing I am. And hopefully, if you're still listening now from when I made my first one, you see the change in the mindset that I have. I mean, the whole point of this podcast in the end was to help through documenting my journey. And part of documenting my journey has been my mindset that you hopefully have been able to see and what has changed from me from then. And quite honestly, I think when I started my podcast, I believe it was the beginning of 2018. So the reality is that I had started my voiceover business the middle of 2017 or earlier. Well, it was my birthday in April, so it was close to the middle. So I didn't start the podcast until about 6 to 8 months in my business. So, it's one of those things where it's still pretty much from the beginning, right? It's been years now. But hopefully you see the difference in the mindset. And what I'm trying to say to you is that you have to continue to put out samples, to put out posts, to put up auditions, to put up more gigs on Fiverr, or send out proposals on Upwork, or send out, proposals on People Per Hour, or join other sites like, try to get on Voice Jungle, or try to get on the Voice Realm, or, try to join wherever you can, be as many places as you can. You are representing yourself. And the best way to get work is to build through this idea of compounding, the compound effect. All right, you guys. Well, enough of that soapbox for today. I hope that helps, and I hope you got another insight into my crazy mind as it is. And also, by the way, just real quick, if you are interested in joining the Fiverr Elite group, I love talking about the group because it's such a blast. We meet on Saturdays, and there'll be a link, of course, in this description. But if you're watching, for example, from the page on VO's Journey website, which, by the way, if you didn't know, there's also a link to the entire podcast and stuff on a VO's Journey website. So that's something cool too, in case you want to go back and see other episodes. But anyways, I'd love to have you and check that out. And there's a nice page that tells you all about Fiverr Elite and everything. So, but anyways, thank you always for listening. I appreciate it. Have a wonderful week. And I promise I will be back soon. All right, you guys, take it easy. Peace.